Guys, so the first 4 videos in our Ditch the Clips series really focused pretty heavily on the theory of why using a clips or a chart system in an early childhood setting may not be the most developmentally appropriate practice. And we will definitely delve more deeply into that theory a little bit later, but I did want to give you guys a few practical applications of what you can do today, tomorrow, to kind of help mitigate some of those situations where you feel like you need to use that as a tool. So I have 2 of my little friends here. My daughter is really big into little people right now, and so these are 2 of her favorites, and they happen to be in the car, so we're going to use them today as our class. So one of the things that we typically have happen in our classroom is when a student, we will just use little Pinky here, misbehaves in some way towards another student, Purple. Purple then comes to us and says, "Hey, she hit me, she touched my things, she took my things, she's in my space," whatever the case may be, right? And as early childhood educators, especially if you are in a K or 1 setting and we're trying to do guided reading or something of that nature where we really don't want to be interrupted, our first thought is don't tattle. But then we have that secondary piece where we go, oh, we also don't want to encourage bullying, and we want to address the behavior before it becomes bigger and more major. And so we really have that dichotomy of the 2 needs, the needs of addressing it so that it does not become a larger problem, so that we're not condoning the behavior, but then that secondary piece where we really want them to become more self-sufficient on dealing with their issues. So one of the first things I teach my kiddos is the difference between tattling and reporting. I have started that even with my 3-year-olds when I taught preschool, and the 3s obviously need a lot more scaffolding. They need a lot more assistance in understanding the difference. So the first thing I usually do is when they come up to you and they go, "Hey, my friend hit me," my first question to them is always, "Well, did you tell your friend you didn't like that?" And typically what you'll see is kids who have not been in a classroom setting that have built those social, emotional, and cognitive skills, the kid will go, because they really don't understand that they have the power to tell another human being that they don't like something. That's mind-changing for them, mind-blowing. They're just like, wow, I can do that. So when they give you that, what do you mean kind of look, I then ask, well, do you need help telling your friend you don't like that? Because sometimes they're just timid or they don't know how to use those words. They've never seen that done in a safe, appropriate kind of manner. So if they need help, that's part of that scaffolding piece. If they need help, I'll come with them. And when I do come with them to tell, Pinky, "Hey, we didn't like it when you touched me," sometimes Purple just needs you to stand there, okay? Sometimes Purple is going to need you to say the words, "Hey, tell her you don't like that," and then she can repeat it. Sometimes you're going to have to actually say the words and go, "Hey, Pinky, Purple came to me and she said you hurt her body and her feelings." So depending on the child and how skilled they are already in that ability, that self-awareness, that ability to understand how they're feeling and why they're feeling that way, you might need to scaffold it at different levels. So you might need to actually say the words for them at first. You might need to just stand there. And then for some children who have had better practice with it because they've been to a high-quality preschool, you might be able to just watch. And so when that child comes to you and you go, "Hey, did you tell them already you don't like that?" And they go, "Oh, no." And you go, "Why don't you go try and do that?" And that child is capable of doing it. You still keep your eyes on the situation because it can escalate, but you do want them to be able to handle it as much on their own as possible. And you want to withdraw that support as much as you can, as soon as you can. So you do want to provide that initial support of either saying the words for them or with them if you need to, and then reduce the amount of support you give as soon as they get more and more comfortable. Okay. Now, in the next video, we will chat about what you do once that's happened. Once that friend has said, "I don't like it when you," because it makes me feel, and I always use those phrasing. It's kind of like the accountable talk where you kind of have those formatted, set up kind of scripts to use because it gives the child a sense of empowerment. They don't have to come up with the words independently. It's something we practice quite a bit in here. So we use the exact phrasing, "I don't like it when you," because it makes me. And so we talk about how those behaviors make us feel, because a lot of times in early childhood they're still in that developmental stage where they don't necessarily always understand other people's emotions. Even if they understand you have thoughts and emotions that are separate from you depending on their age, they're not going to always understand how they impact those feelings. And so it really starts to build that sense of empathy, and I think that we can all agree that that's a skill we want our children to have, is empathy for others and understanding of others. And so by giving them the tools to use those words, other people can then start to think about how their behaviors and their choices are impacting other children. So in the next one, we will talk about how to then further that conversation if needed.